Okay, welcome to Links London. Now this video is going to be entirely about my latest eBay find and purchase, the Apple Mac Pro from late 2013. Now Links London is going to be a jewellery business, and the channel and the content was supposed to be all about jewellery, but so far this is my fourth video I've made all about this, and that's because the business needed a computer for me to make a computer for the workshop for me to make the website and some social media content, and you just need a computer these days to do everything. So I had out here, I already had this screen, the Apple Cinema display. I was using out here a MacBook Pro from about the same period, 2013 Mac Pro, an old unit, keyboard's playing up, trackpad's playing up, but it still works fine. So I had this, is this the Magic Keyboard and Magic Trackpad? Again, they're not the latest ones, they're quite old ones. So I was using this shut, connected to this display with these two. So I kind of already had the basic setup for a Mac Pro. You buy all of this. What I thought I'd do in this video is, I've had this a couple of weeks now, and there are definitely some people that should buy one of these and some people that shouldn't. So I thought we'd go into my real world experience with this, because in the build up to me buying one of these, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube, phenomenal they were. There's always a little nugget of information about what you should be looking for and how to upgrade them, and all of the different videos. I watched loads of them, and there's over 10 years of content about these now, so little nuggets of information and history, and yeah, they're all great. But I noticed with them, things are changing now, because these are dropping in price, and there's a reason they're dropping in price. I'm filming this, it's very nearly the end of 2024. I don't know whether this will come out in 2024 or this may not even come out until 2025. So what we're really talking about is whether these are any use, well, who these are any use to now and moving forward, because they're not as useful as I think some of the older videos make out. Because although they all have their own little story, I mean, there's some people that are really knowledgeable, not just about these, but Macs in general. So the storyline of most of the videos is very similar, and they'll benchmark test the hardware against, it's quite often a Mac Mini, an Apple Silicon Mac Mini, or 2018 and later. Compare it, benchmark it, and then the hardware, and then do some real world tests, and the outcome is usually they're comparable hardware wise and sort of on general tasks. But then when you come to export video, the new Mac, the entry level Mac completely and wipes the floor with it, and that is my real world experience too, and I'll explain what happened. So this is, I'll explain what model this is. Again, I've made 4 videos about this, so I'll overlay the video from some of the video time lapsed over me waffling in this one, because the first video we unboxed it. The second video I think I took it apart and cleaned it, dusted the fan because it was full of dust, which had become loose in transit. The first time I turned it on, it blew out. This is basically a chimney. There's air vents at the bottom and a fan at the top. It's a fantastic design, but the dust came loose and it blew it out. So, and then the last video I made was actually removing the original RAM and upgrading the RAM, which will probably be the last upgrade I do, and again I'll explain why. So this is the D300. It's the entry level GPU, and it is running Mac OS Monterey. It is the 3.5 GHz 6-core Intel Xeon E5. I've upgraded the RAM, so this now has 64 gigabytes of 1866 MHz DDR3. As I said, it's the D300. In terms of storage, this one came with the 250 gigabyte, so the smallest SSD, and it came with 3 sticks, 4 gigabyte RAM. So when it arrived, it had 12 gigabytes of RAM. It's now got 64. Now, when it turned up, I filmed the first Lynx London video using the same camera I'm using, which is actually the phone, an iPhone Pro Max 12. I then, because this has got the small hard drive, I then used, did I have it? The Samsung, one of the Samsung T7 external hard drives, which I've put somewhere. It's there. So I then, these actually come with USB and USB-C cable. So yeah, I used this plugged into the Mac Pro, airdropped from the phone to the Mac Pro the footage, which is at full speed on the phone, 4K 60 frames per second, airdropped it over, and then I think when it goes into the downloads of the Mac Pro, transferred it into the Samsung T7, no problem. Then all I've got on the MacBook Pro is Google Chrome and so far, and Final Cut Pro X. Downloaded those, no problem. Then to edit, now the first video on this channel, on the Lynx London channel, was edited entirely using Final Cut Pro X on the Mac Pro, and I didn't really have that many issues. It dropped a few frames. I wouldn't even go. I wouldn't go as far as to say it struggled at all. It did it quite. It handled it really well, until, like all of the other videos make clear, until I went to export it. As soon as I went to it, edited it, it rendered it. As soon as I went to export, and I did it in the it was for Apple devices. I think I did it in the HVEC, but full Dolby at 8.1. It was about an 8 GB file. I left it for about half an hour and it still hadn't got to 1%. It was still on 0%. And this thing was, the fan was like, this is completely silent running now after I've cleaned out the fan in video 2. I opened it up, hoovered out the fan. Now it's really quiet. You can barely notice it. After I'd cleaned it out, it was so quiet. I was worried I'd broken it. I couldn't hear it running at all, but it is running. It's really quiet. Once when I was trying to export 4K video, this thing sounded like a Hoover, and I actually stopped it after about half an hour because I was worried about cooking it. And that is a problem. If you watch the other videos, apparently that is a problem with the D500s and the D700s, the upgraded GPUs. There was a product recall on because they did cook themselves. The temperatures got too hot in there and they cooked. So there was a product recall, which is why one of the reasons I went for the D300, because if you manage to get a D500 and D700, one, they cost considerably more. And two, if they didn't get the product recall and you do try and do 4K video and stuff like I was doing, there is the potential for you to cook them and write them off because they're unaffordable, replaceable. Well, they are replaceable, but I think if the graphics cards cost more than the unit with the graphics cards in, so it's kind of pointless. But yeah, I stopped it. I was worried about cooking it and I was worried about my power bill. And I plugged the hard drive, because everything was on this external hard drive for that first video, plugged it into a 2017 Mac Pro. When I plugged it in, it said, oh, this is a newer version of Final Cut Pro X, we need to update the files. Clicked, yep. Exported it, and it wasn't that quick on the 2017 Mac Pro, but it did start ticking up almost immediately. So, a few minutes later, we're at 1%. I think it probably took two. I left it. It probably took 2 or 3 hours from 2017 Mac Pro, but this was going to take 2 or 3 days. So it's not that it wouldn't do it. It was just going to take forever. So I exported it on the 2017. I then came back to this, and it will not open up the file. When you put this in there and try and open up that project file, that Final Cut Pro X, it says it's been created on a newer version, and it won't open. So when you create things on this, it's forwards compatible, which is a good thing. You can take stuff you've edited, you've created on this, and use it in newer Macs, but then when you try and take it back, it's updated it so you can't, it's then not backwards compatible. So all the footage I edited on this, you now can't even, well, I can probably view the files on it, but I'd have to if I want to edit it, I'd have to start from scratch. Which is why I would say, if you're looking at one of these, and like the other videos kind of suggest that you could compare them to a Mac Mini, you can't. If you're in the market for something like a Mac Mini, you're going to have to get a Mac Mini. The reason you get one of these is the same reason I got one of these, because you think they look cool, and they do look cool. It's a phenomenal piece of design. I don't think in the short term they're going to repeat this design. If you look at the Mac Pros from before this, from before 2013, they're the big box, rectangular boxes with the cheese grater on the front. And as soon as I mean, Apple eventually actually ended up apologising for this. Really, just from a technical standpoint, from a design standpoint, it's a phenomenal looking thing, and it still is. But yeah, they've the Mac Pro after this was on sale until 2018. 2019, they went straight back to the rectangular box with the cheese grater on the front. And I think because of the bad reception and bad press and all that they got from this, I think it'd be a brave executive at Apple that revisits this design. And the thing is, with this design, if that's the reason you should get one of these, but it's limited to what you can do with it. You're not going to be able to edit the latest footage filmed on a phone. It's not practical. It's not to say you can't do it, and it's not to say you can't use like Open Core and put the latest versions in this, get the latest operating systems and get the latest, like anything. Things are like what's possible and what's practical are two different things. Like I'm saying you can't do it. Someone will correct me until you can Open Core it and put the latest version in it and then update this, and you probably could. You could probably get it, but then it's like if it's just not practical to work with. And you can update people update this. They're a fantastic computer. They're probably one of the last generations of Mac if you want a project to upgrade, because from 2018 you need to like forget upgrading. These you can open it up. I'll overlay the video. We just, it's got the clip-in DDR3 RAM. It's a very easy upgrade. So if you're looking for a little project, and an inexpensive project, you can buy the RAM for these. The only thing you can't buy is the GPUs, but you can buy RAM. You can buy if you get one, the 6-core like this, you can then get yourself a 12-core for about $20. The RAM the RAM that I got for this was the 64 gig RAM when they were new. We found a video in that video I made. I referenced a video, and I paid 20 quid, so less than $25 for the RAM, which back in the day when these were current was a $1,200 upgrade. So yeah, if you're looking for a cool looking computer, and these are really capable, like when it starts up really quickly, if I shut it down and start it back up, shut down, it's very responsive. It will shut down, and it shuts down. It will close up and open up probably as quickly as a MacBook. So that's off. One thing I do like on this is this little feature. When you tip it, that it lights up, or rotate it. I mean, it's a really simple thing, but that is just a really cool feature. So if we power it on, gotta love the little noise it makes as well. I mean, back in 2013, if you basically had the power of a modern Mac Mini, you were really doing it. Right, close your eyes. We're going to enter the password. Are we not? Yes, we are. See, that's pretty good for a 10-year-old machine. So yeah, if you just want a machine that looks phenomenal on your desktop, that's perfectly capable of doing web-based things, emails, surfing the web, a little bit of photo editing, you know, touch up your photos that you've airdropped from your phone for social media. It's perfect. And if you're like me and you've wanted one since 2013, the price I paid 165 British pounds plus £20 shipping, so 185 pounds, which is less than 250 US dollars, depending on the exchange rate when you're watching. And then the upgrade, I put it up to 64 gigabytes of RAM, which is the only upgrade I'm going to do, because, and that cost me £20, which is again less than 25 US dollars. So I already had the display. You could probably pick one of these up for £50 to £100, probably the same in the US, $50 to $100. Keyboard and trackpad, you're probably looking at a comparable. You're probably looking at spending around, if you bought everything right now, at least £300 and 300 US dollars. And what would that get you? A notebook, a Chromebook new. What it would get you is, and that's really what performance you're going to get, it just looks a lot cooler. But it would get you quite a good Mac Mini, which is far more capable for doing modern video formats. So yeah, if you're looking for something practical, the Mac Mini is the way to go. If you're just looking for something that looks cool, it's so much cooler than the Mac Mini. What you could actually do is put the Mac Mini beneath, you know, could, like, it might increase the temperature somewhat in here, but you could realistically sit that on top of a Mac Mini. You could even sit that on top of a Mac Studio and have a couple of displays. It's just like, you wouldn't even have to have it, just get one and have it plug. I don't even plug it in, just have it because it looks cool, sat on top of your Mac Mini or your Mac Studio and pretend, just for the way it looks. But yeah, that's my takeaway from this. I love it. And based on that, I think the reason to buy one of these is because you've always wanted one and they look cool, not because they're practical. And from that, there's a few things I would say you've got to look out for. Make sure the case is in reasonably good condition. This one looked awful in the images. They're actually a lot sturdier than you think. And it's almost like black rhodium. It's kind of like this black chrome. And they're smaller than you'd imagine as well. They're smaller than I remember, and they're smaller than they look in pictures, but that is... that's compared to the modern Mac Pros, and the ones before this were massive units. But then that's why this was so badly received, because it was so unupgradable. So yeah, they're a lot smaller and more compact than you would imagine. But because we're buying these because they look cool, the other thing to look out for is this original mains cable with the flush plate there, which sits inside. I've seen white ones as well, which don't look quite as... this must have been for something. They must have just got a job lot of these Apple. They were obviously for something else, because there are white ones kicking about as well. But you'll often see them without this plate, this fascia plate over them. So you're just sticking the normal kettle lead straight in it, so it kind of ruins the aesthetic. It doesn't ruin it, but it's not... The aesthetic's not quite as good as this flush fit, especially when you're doing the light trick. Also, from an aesthetic point of view, loads of cables is not going to be, well, it might be, but it's not really going to be the best looking machine with loads of cables hanging out of it. It's a shame, actually. It's a shame they didn't put the power. This is technically the back, but it's the coolest looking bit because of the light show. But yeah, it is somewhat of a shame they didn't put the power cable coming out of the back and having that as the front. But you know, I just think it's a phenomenal piece of design that was a real leap from the previous Mac Pro, and it's kind of in a place all of its own, because the next Mac Pros and went back to a square box. The Mac Mini's kind of, although it's got rounded edges, and the Mac Studio are basically rectangular boxes. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. But I think if you're going to get one, if you're thinking about getting one, I'm definitely keeping it. It's staying on here. I'm going to do the website on it. I just won't be able to. I'm going to have to use my other Macs for video editing, and I don't know how it's going to perform with music editing with Logic, but I don't do a lot of that. But I would imagine it's the same sort of situation. You might well be able to edit things in here, but then if you transfer them, or if you're transferring between computers, you need everything really on the same. You need everything to be either on the same operating system or capable of upgrading to the same operating system. So yeah, I'm waffling now, but the key point is, if you need, it's not. Moving forward, they're not practical. They look cool, and that is a perfectly valid reason to get one as a desktop with cinema display. And I mean, you can imagine, like, it's such a cool looking machine. This is a terrible example of a cool looking place, but you know, like, I can imagine if what's the thing, like Cribs, Architects Digest, AD, where they go to celebrities' houses. It's almost like Cribs, but with actual taste and style. Like if there was a desk, if someone was, well, they are working from home, they're generally, you know, the rich and famous, but that on a desk with that in a slightly more minimal setting than this garage with all the rubbish in it, would be a very cool minimalist office environment. Right. See you in the next one. Hope that was helpful. Toodles.